could really say these moments have been happening forever. But that moment was where I stopped and really considered, oh, this isn't just for other people. What else have I made up? I mean, it was really big. It was really big for me to consider. Oh, it's a beautiful Me Too. And I remember leaving and having this moment walking up the hill and being like, I didn't really have an insight. So if I don't understand something, it's not going to come from understanding it the way I've been going about it. And I knew from the feeling of gentle, there was more to me. And I hadn't done anything to get that. It was more of what I hadn't been doing that had allowed it. And that was the moment that I became a student, like all ears, like everything was on the table. So that moment, I put my life up for auction. I went to Sotheby's, don't know if it would have been taken. I don't think it was that valuable there, but I put up my ideas of my weight, my value, my talent, my mothering, my wifing, my humor, my place with my friendship groups, my opinions of what food I liked, what food I didn't like, that I liked walking over running. I put everything on the auction table and said, have it, see what you can get for it, because I'm up for seeing what else there is.
Wow.
So that was the moment. I mean, and for me, what I didn't appreciate is I just wasn't listening. It didn't mean it wasn't available for me. It means that I wasn't listening in a softer way. I wasn't listening in a way to absorb rather than get.
So for people listening here, like I know my clients' minds, right? And they'll be going, aha, right. So 15 years, so maybe if I listen for 15 years, I'll have a road to Damascus moment like that, where my whole insides get blown out, and then I'll find out what the principles are. And I know that would be completely missing the point of the story. But I'm just acknowledging the fact that some people's minds will have gone off in that direction.
What, that you need to do the tunnel of pain before you get to the light?
Yeah, that bit. And also that when you see something, it will be a massive Big Bang moment like that the first time you really see something.
Yeah, see, I mean, it's
funny.
funny.
Now they're waiting for that. Okay, well, I definitely haven't had that. So what do I need to do? What did she say she did? Like, how long did she have to wait? Well, when will I know what she means by them and me? I'm definitely not one of those people yet. So what do I need to do to get enlightened? Right? That will be the questions that are running through people's minds. And I guess just from a listening point of view, when I'm listening to you, like I just am touched, like I feel the beauty of that story. That's it. That's when I listen to you, that's what I get from listening to you. Like it's just, I feel that feeling like when you would like melt up next to Aaron, right? Like I just, like it's just a beautiful story, and that wakens something up in me, and I know I want to listen for that rather than well, I wasn't listening for that, but that's kind of what I have listened to if I think about your story, versus how do I get me some of that? Like, how do you do that? How do you do that? And off into the busy. I mean, that's exactly how you were stopping yourself from listening, right?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I don't think my insight you would categorize it as the kind of insights where people say, oh, I realized I was part of every bit in the universe. I mean, it feels like other insights are always about, my biggest insight was I'm not listening. It's, if you like my insight didn't give me all the answers. It basically, that moment told me I'm more than thought. So I started out with a premise of I'm more than my thoughts. So I didn't have the same insecurity. You know, it's like I didn't know how to uncover it or live in it more, but I was really humble to listening differently. And I would say that working with clients, I think time frame is made up. So I'm interested in them. I'm interested in their quality of listening. So I want them to see if they're listening in an unhelpful way, because somebody would never come to me unless they're looking for something that I was looking for. I think we're all looking for the same thing, which is a deeper, softer connection to ourselves. And it's much simpler to sort of just be really comfortable with helping people learn to listen. So if somebody had taken me aside, and I was quite fierce, to be fair, like when I first started training on the One Thought Institute, nobody would supervise me. Nobody. Everyone's like, not it. Linda wouldn't do it. Aaron wouldn't do it. Mara wouldn't do it. No one would touch me. So they gave the new intern, they gave the new person to me. And then I calmed down and they were eventually willing to go near me. But I think I didn't, my feeling was invisible to me. And so no one really was like going, hey, go and touch that electric fence and tell it it's not listening. Tell the electric fence that it's not listening. But I feel like in lots of ways, so many stories of the principles are how someone saw it and then no one else gets it. And I was the other end of that. I was this sort of Fruit Loop crazy person who sort of didn't get it. It wouldn't have taken much to take me aside and say, hey, there's another way to listen. You're not doing it wrong, but there's a softer way to listen. And that's what I do with my clients.
Yeah, say a little bit more about that. Like, just talk to us about listening.
So when we, if I look at the kind of listening I had when I was really trying, when you see little kids that are like, they're really trying to get like maths or something. They're like, they're really, they're trying. There's a feeling to that.
Yeah.
But when you get a little kid that's trying to get maths, it's efforting. But if you get a little kid that's watching a cartoon or they're listening to music, they're not trying to get it. They're soft in their mind. No kid. I was in a museum yesterday and it was the Van Gogh experience. And there's some lady there with these two kids, and one of them was a little girl who's 6, and she just couldn't help but move with the music, and her mother kept taking her to quiet. I'm like, let her dance. But she felt it, like music wasn't something like maths. I think maths is the same as music now, but the use of your mind is that I had never looked at the feeling I lived in. I thought the feeling I woke up with in the morning was to do with who I was and who I was designed genetically, my family, my whatever. I mean, I thought I was some like Lego building that was just built that way. Mm. I didn't realize the feeling I lived in wasn't my life, it was my thinking. And so it's so powerful to see when you're listening, what's your feeling? What is the feeling? Is it soft? Is it gentle? Does it feel like, and then at times I'll get tricked and I think I'm listening really well because I'm like, that's it. Okay, no. But and then you look at the feeling and there's a little tension in there. That's not listening. Yeah. And listening is not being asleep. It means being really at ease. So I used to notice that I'd always have the thought, I've got somewhere to be. It's like low grade anxiety. I've always got somewhere to be. Finish this so I can do the other thing. So then I can do the other thing that I haven't invented yet, that I'm also going to add to the list once I finished this thing. Right. And so for me, that thought, somewhere to be, was, I even discover I had that until about 4 years ago. And I did a listening seminar, and sometimes the people are uneven. So you sit with one of our students and so you listen and you do a listening exercise with them, and they're talking about this sort of quite brutal divorce they're going through. And I'm listening and I think I'm quiet because my thoughts are reasonable and I feel like I'm quiet. And then I saw it. Oh, that's painful. Oh, that's bad. Oh, he's mean. But it's like there was this feeling of tension and I sort of wanted it to be over. And I'm like, oh, you're not listening, Leela. You're not listening. And I was like, but. And I'm like, no, you're not listening. So I dropped my opinion and my agenda. It's a big deal. Like, agenda would be useful to see if you're wondering about how to listen. Can you let go of your agenda? So I let go of my agenda and I feel so peaceful, and like I feel like I'm sitting on one of those boats that floats around a river and there's beautiful overhanging branches. I mean, I literally feel like that, and I feel really connected to her. Being wrapped up in my empathy for her disconnected me from her.
Right.
And letting go of agenda and opinion and preference, like, she's having an experience. Why should I judge that, whether it's good or bad? What if I was just really in service of her? And knowing that I feel peaceful and I got nowhere to be tells me I'm in service. So I can kind of be with her, and I will have thoughts gently come and go, but there's not that, or that sort of somewhere to be feeling, or, oh, that's terrible. So the most powerful thing to see is the feeling you have when you're listening.
So many people, particularly in this group, are listening with an agenda. So I guess there'll be some of our practitioners on here who will listen for, so how can I help my client with this? Right. And most people who are not practitioners listening to this, and the agenda is, well, I'm here because there's a problem in my life. And so is this going to fix that? Like, what can I hear that will help me have a better relationship with my kids? What can I hear that will fix my anxiety? What will I, like, when will my anxiety be gone? Maybe this is the course that will do it. And all of those, I mean, that's so, I don't know about you, but that's definitely been part of my experience of my listening journey. Interested in it, actually, you reminded me of, it's funny, actually, I bet you could talk to every 3 Principles practitioner and they could tell you a story of their learning to listen, and that being linked to their levels of understanding. Because I remember for me, and this was a couple of years ago, so not even that long ago, but I remember going to spend some time in Lacona with Dickin, and him talking about the nature of, somehow we got onto the topic of talking about the paradoxes in the conversation. And Dickin was sharing with me about how he was really interested in the subject of love. And so he'd go to Sid and ask him about, well, what is love, Sid? And Sid would give him an answer. Oh, it's a beautiful feeling, Dickin. You know, like, you all know the feeling of love. It's this beautiful feeling. And Dickin would be very pleased with the answer, and he'd go away home, and then he'd come back the next day and he'd go, no, tell me more about love. You said yesterday it's this beautiful feeling that I get to feel. And Sid would go, that's not love, Dickin. Love is blah, blah, blah. And he'd tell him a completely different answer. And Dickin would get so frustrated. But what Sid was kind of showing him is that when you, basically all these paradoxes, everything was true and none of it was. And there are so many paradoxes in this conversation that your mind cannot ever grasp it. And that for me was the first time that my mind gave up, because I really saw that my head would never understand what Dickin was sharing with me in those 4 days. I got to a point where he was talking to me and I was saying, I can hear you, I can see your mouth moving, and I can hear you talking to me, but I'm lost. I don't even understand what you're saying anymore. And that's when I gave up, because I realized I didn't need to. And then for the rest, I think there were 2 days left out of the 4 days. I was really impacted by the conversation. It's like all those men on the scaffolding just went, sod it then, and they just left. They're like, oh, we've put our hours in, we've put our time in. There's no point me being here. Can I just go then? They left. And then because of that, there was space for, to be impacted. But I had gone to that retreat with an agenda of what I wanted to get out of it. I'd traveled to America, I'd signed up, there were certain things Dickin and I talked about we would explore when we got there. So I was there, all ears, to listen. I'm listening. I know listening is important, so therefore I'm listening. But until I had that realization and I realized a new level of listening, I hadn't realized how crappy my previous listening level had been, which happens all the time in the principles, right? You think you're quiet and then you drop a level and you realize how noisy you actually were. But this, yeah, sorry, you were going to say something.
Well, no, I just think if we understood listening, it's infinite. So the beauty of it is I have a love affair with listening, because it's the sat nav to my entire career now. And it's going to be the fountain of youth and the sustenance that I'll draw on, because the more I look in the direction of seeing the levels of distraction I'm in, the end of that journey in my mind, I mean, I'm not looking to get enlightened, but it's got to be down there. You know, it's like letting go enough to listen to everything. You know, to listen at that deep level without preference or ideas. I mean, it's endlessly beautiful. Like, you'll never get bored if you become a student of listening, ever.
That's a lovely note to end on for today. And I think, yeah, I'm not even going to say anymore. I think that's an invitation to become a student of listening. Thank you.
Welcome.